So I want to know how many of you are familiar with the term decolonizing Thanksgiving? Oh, okay, same thing. So I have found in my life that the best thing you can do when you want to force yourself to learn about something is to volunteer to present it somewhere else. So last week, as we were leaving this corner, I said to Rick, I want to talk about decolonizing Thanksgiving. It's a little depressing. But looking in the face of our history can be depressing, but knowledge is power, right? So decolonizing Thanksgiving specifically speaks to what happened to the Native American people who were here as a result of our ancestors arriving from elsewhere. So one of the first things that we can recognize when we talk about decolonizing Thanksgiving is that often in our history taught to us from childhood, we're taught that the land was empty when we got here, and then we proceeded to build this wonderful colony and go on to build democracy, and that's all there was. But in reality, there were people here long before we ever arrived. And so when we talk about Thanksgiving, often people will describe Thanksgiving as it being their favorite holiday. It's Christmas without all the trouble, right? You don't have to shop for presents and wrap and figure out whose house you're going to be at. Well, the house part is still a struggle, but it's a less cumbersome holiday in terms of cost, and it's a time for us to enjoy our families, to think about what we're grateful for, and think about how we want to go on being that way. But when you ask a Native American person what Thanksgiving is a celebration for, it's no celebration. It's a marking in history of when their colonizing began to happen. So when did we start to lose the rights that we would have as Native Americans is when we came. So then learning about history can be discouraging, like I said. So one of the major things when the colonists came here, first of all, we brought lots of diseases that nobody had any immunity to. So an awful lot of the Native Americans died from that. I can't cast specific fault on that. I think we've been doing that for time immemorial. But it weakened their ability to respond to sort of an invading force that arrived, right? So the biggest tribe around here were the Pequots. And we all know it for like the Pequot Reservation, right? Because I'm going to speak from my own childhood. You know, my understanding of the word wampum was Indian money, right? And wampum was actually a cherished possession of the Native Americans, similar to money, but not the same as money. And because the Pequots controlled the whole area of the coast, they had the most access to the shells that wampum was actually made of. So, of course, that became a point of power for the force that arrived on the shores after the Indians. So, in the name of God, we made war on the Native Americans, right? So there was a large massacre in Mystic, Connecticut. And it was against a large fort that was in Mystic, and apparently there's a museum there. I haven't gone there. And this fort had only two entrances, front and back. So they went in and they boarded up the entrances, and then they proceeded to burn and massacre 700 Pequot Indians. And that was, I think, something like 2/3 of the tribe at the time. So apparently the chief was not home when all of this horrible stuff happened. He had gone to another Indian tribe to ask for allyship against what was happening to his people. And to prove that life is life, you know, we can't anoint anybody with special wisdom that supersedes everyone else's, because when he went to this other tribe, and I could try to name them, but I'll do it wrong and then somebody will have a fit, they actually beheaded him and cut off his hands. And they took the head and the hands and they sent it back to the English to prove in a bid for allyship on their part. So this idea that, and the other thing to remember is that this massive massacre that occurred actually had two Indian tribes that were allied with the English at the time that coordinated in this attack. There is some historical stuff that says that way that Indians made war on one another, they always spared the women and children, and so they assumed that this would be the same when the English attacked this fort, and it wasn't. They killed everyone. But just to prove that, I mean, as a human race, we are a warlike people, and that we war on one another with some disgusting amount of routine activity, was sort of the depressing part for me. So I wanted to read you a little excerpt from a poem called "This Land Belongs to No One" by Hilla Ratzabi. We acknowledge the history of pain, disease, and bloodshed the native peoples endured when they were colonized. Though we can't reverse the course of history, let us not ignore it. Let us look history in the eye and accept its painful truth. Let us honor the memory of those who died on this land, who lost their sovereignty. Let us honor the native people who to this day keep their traditions and cultures alive and seek to reclaim, reassert, and revive that sovereignty. So I think the biggest lesson that I learned from my investigation of this concept of decolonizing Thanksgiving is that there's still work to do. And our rallying cry of love your neighbor has been true all the way through history. And that if we all lived to that, there would be a lot less strife in the world. And I'm going to end with my very favorite quote in the whole wide world. And it was by Rabbi Heschel. I think I said that right. He said, "Few are guilty, all are responsible." And that is a quote I can live to. And that is a quote that I bring to this corner every Sunday, that I can do my part to change this and to recognize that we are all neighbors, regardless of any pretend barrier we try to draw between each other. Thank you.